What up, ET?
What's up?
You good?
Yeah, I'm chilling. How are you?
How has the offseason been so far, in your opinion? I think I was talking to Donald. I think it's only been like 5 or 6 weeks since we got back from nationals.
Yeah, it's actually not been that long, to be honest. It's really only like a month and a half. So I've been pretty much in the gym a week after nationals, so I really haven't stopped that much since.
Yeah, it's one of those things, finding a balance of giving yourself some rest because obviously it was a really long year. And for those that don't know, we at UW practiced really hard right until the end of the season. But then obviously you wanted to get back in the gym and improve your situation. The point of the conversations, just trying to tell your story, give one of the many roadmaps to future athletes that want to see how other guys did it.
Hmm.
First question I like to ask you guys is kind of your first sporting memory. It could be basketball, it could be any sport, and as far back as a youth as you can remember.
Well, I actually don't remember how old I was specifically, but it was definitely going with my uncle to Lavalley School and watching him just put up jumpers and stuff like that. And just like really just following him around all day, every day, being that annoying little nephew and stuff like that. But I'm glad
Do
he
you
brought
have
me around these places. So
do you have a rough estimate of what that we're talking like 5 years old, 8 years
I
old?
probably had 5'6" first time I really shot a basketball. He made me shoot a three first, actually, which was funny, and it hit the middle of the paint. And I was just like, oh, like maybe this is a
Maybe
little
this
bit
ain't for
harder.
me.
This isn't for me, man. It looks harder than it seems, you know what I'm saying? I'm seeing him cash out shots, you know what I'm saying? And I'm looking like I could do that for sure. And then the attempt it was eye-opening for me, but
Eye opening.
it made me want to come back for sure.
The I think the cool thing about your game in particular is you have a really interesting feel for the game. I tell people all the time that in practices when we're getting up and down, you're probably our most dynamic passer. And that includes Sean, who is our conference's assist leader. Do you have any insight or what you can remember of what made you a good passer?
I know exactly what it is. And you're not gonna believe me, but it's the truth. When I first started watching basketball, I was convinced that Rajon Rondo was the best basketball player of all time. Like he couldn't, it was crazy to me. Like I used to watch him drop 20, 15, and like 10 triple
Mhm.
doubles all day, and I'd be like, yo, how is he not the best ever? Like, so that was like my real first favorite person to like watch, and like I used to watch his film all day. Like, so I was a Celtic fan, all that. And then I got to LeBron, and I've been bandwagoning ever since, to be honest. So those are two like probably the better passers I've ever seen in my life. So just, watching them all day, all night.
It's funny you say that. I wouldn't believe it. I really do believe it because I have a similar path where I grew up watching Steve Nash.
Mm,
So I was 11 years old and trying to throw behind the back passes. Um, and it was just like a normal thing. Where were you able uh to take the Rajon Rondo film and see the passes with LeBron and look? Where were you first able to experiment with that kind of stuff?
well, I'd always experiment with like that stuff at school and stuff with like my friends, but like for the real experience, like my uncle, like I said, back to my uncle, like he used to bring me around, you were probably there, the sergeant runs and the church runs over there, and like yeah, like I wouldn't be allowed to play many of the games, but like in terms of scoring, like I wasn't gonna score on these guys to like an efficient level where these guys would be satisfied, but I could throw some dimes and
Right.
what I'm saying, get everyone involved. So like that was kind of like how I was trying to look at it. Like, how do I, fit in as like a 7-year-old, 8-year-old at these runs?
Yeah, because I think I remember one or two that I think that you were there. And you started really pulling up right. You're like what, 13, 14?
Yeah, that's when I was really regularly pulling up because my mom was not having that because you guys used to go like what 10 to 12 sometimes 8 to
Yeah.
8 to
Yeah,
10.
they were
That's
they were late. Um, And then even looking at the time that at that age you're talking about, trying to fit in. From what I remember, you weren't the physical specimen you are now. What was your growth pattern
My
like
growth,
throughout middle school?
I think I was like 5'6", and I graduated from grade 8. Then I went to grade 9. I probably grew about 1 or 2 inches. So yeah, I started grade 9 about 5'8", 5'9",
Right.
and
So average.
yeah, pretty average. Like was not shocking anybody to be honest. And then I started to grow a lot that year.
Mhm.
And by grade 10, I was around like 6'1".
Right.
That's when I could really start using my physical tools on these guys. But
Yeah.
it wasn't until like grade 12 that I was like actually 6'5" and up there.
So you touched on it briefly as being the young guy at those pickup games. What do you think was like the biggest takeaways that helped you for not just like that period of your life, but has continued on for the last number of years?
I mean, it just taught me that like how to be, I guess, more, I don't know, sure of myself, or like it's kind of like these guys weren't gonna give me anything. Like I had to go out there and like prove it for myself. And like it was almost like it's either you quit because
Mm,
it's not gonna work out for you, just try to do all this stuff, or you just keep going harder until you can be with these guys. And I just wanted to be like at that level so bad that I was gonna come back regardless.
right. Yeah, that's the feeling of playing pickup with older guys or better guys. It's such a it's such a great test for getting into actual games, because you want to fit in, you want to earn the respect of guys. You don't want to be that guy that you walk into the gym and no one wants on their team.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you don't want to be the last pick. No one wants to be the
You
last
don't want
pick.
to be the last pick. And I think you touched on this like really briefly when you talked about the passing aspect. Um, what role do you think, or how much did you play lunch ball?
Oh,
And what did
God.
and what did lunch ball do for your game?
Lunchball, man. Lunchball is like it's just like it's almost like a shortened version of a pickup game that like it's like more fast-paced pickup game. So it's just like you get to try as many things as you want. And there's really just no judgment. It's just like a bunch of kids at school just, messing around and stuff like that. So, but the lunch balls that I've been a part of, everybody go hard. So it's just
Right,
like first lunch ball I was at, it was Ziwa and those guys. And even then, like they still didn't even want us to play type stuff. But like I had to prove myself then. Actually, the second day of school, I crossed up my teacher so bad, dropped him to his knees. That's how I kind of cemented myself as a hooper in grade 9 to start the year off.
the environments like the pickup, or again, I think lunch ball is a super underrated development tool,
Hmm.
because again, you're playing outside of like rigid tactical ideas. In some sense, the score doesn't even matter because all you're trying to do is you're trying to get that one moment.
Right.
You're trying to get that I crossed the teacher up, and now everyone remembers that for the rest of the year. And that encourages this like taking chances
Hmm.
that you don't get in a regular 5-on-5 or.
It was really the only chance to get to play the varsity team on a regular basis. Like, especially when you're coming in on the lower end, it's just like, yeah, I want to try to beat those guys because I want to be on that team eventually. There's only 12 of
Right.
them. So, yeah, definitely wanted to be part of that.
What was your post high school, that in between period between grade 12 and starting up at UW? What did that look like for you?
For me, like, so we stopped playing early because, we weren't gonna win no provincials. But from then I went on to Wolves and like I had Coach Chit and Coach Faboni and like all those guys. And by then I had Coach Mark who just won the
Yep.
national champion. So we had a pretty good coaching squad and they would always ask me like what's your plan? Where you trying to go? And I had a couple places that I wanted to go. A couple like there's D2 places. I got I did well at this one tournament for Nike in Chicago, so I was getting a little looks off that. But To be honest, like I really just wanted to like, cause my uncle played UW. I really just wanted to like come home. You know what I mean? So I could have left, but yeah, that's where I was really just trying to leave the crib.
And what did that spring look like when you first touched base with Coach Rainbow, and what did that summer look like?
Well, the first time I really met Coach was the Brandon tournament
Right,
that grade 12 year. So he was watching a bunch of the games, and Coach Wolf introduced me, and I guess we started a little like conversation from there, just seeing what's up, and then I ended up having a pretty good year, and then so probably I'd say a month after my season was done, that's when ours like that's when the spring runs were starting up
right.
because that's March. So yeah, so by then I was already just hooping with the guys, and I already knew a lot of them, like Will Ceesay and those type of dudes, Billy and them. So yeah, it was just an easy fit. So I just come to the runs, and that's how we kind of just start to talk.
And now it feels like you've probably been at the program for 10 years or so.
Man, I should have like some type of job there, or like, you know, I'm gonna be on the coaching staff or something, man. I don't know if I
What's what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned from being, because you redshirted first year, right?
hmm
From going redshirt through COVID to now entering your last year, like what are some of the major takeaways you've had over the whole career arc?
Well, to start off, like redshirting is like you come from high school being the man. So it's like you expect everything to go your way. Off jump, especially like you're just a high schooler. You're like, you know what? I see these dudes in D1 going straight there and killing and all this. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna have a great year. And when I figured out that like it was not gonna turn out that way for myself, it was just, I guess it was just like I had to take a step back and be like, okay, what do I need to, how do I get up back up to another level? Because
Yep.
pretty much what I've been doing my whole life, just looking up and seeing like what level I could reach. So after that year, it started off slow, but started progressing probably around my second year. That's when I started to get like a little bit of minutes and stuff like that.
Yep.
And I started to learn a lot from like Adam and like Sean Tarver and Narcisse, just how to like come in, day out, regardless of like classes, regardless of like, what I'm saying, all that extracurricular stuff. It's just like, you got to come in, put some work in for sure. And then we got a new batch of dudes. I'll never forget Spaz. That's the guy right there. He taught me like how to move on from a play
Right.
because he used to like I used to joke around with him and stuff like that. Like, I dunked on you, this, and this. I crossed you up, whoop de whoop. He's like, I don't care. That's all
Yeah.
you've been looking. I don't care. Like this stuff does not matter to me. I just want to win. And it's just like just seeing that type of mentality, you're just like, oh, it's a little bit different when you get to these type of levels because you're gonna get embarrassed.
Right.
You're gonna lose games that you think you should have won because there are other good players on the court. Like it's just the reality. So he taught me a lot. Who else? Got a couple other people, Don busting my ass every day, all that. But yeah, just all
What's the
that.
any what's the you talked about the potential of leaving, but staying home. What's the last couple of years been like being able to go on kind of the rides that we've went on with dudes like Sean, Donald, Mal?
Yeah, well, starting off, like we were when I first started, we were winning like 50% of the games, maybe.
Right.
So like from starting from there and coming to like back to back national trips, it's like it. I feel like it was achievable all this time, almost in a way. But the way that our players were, or the way that we were as a team, we couldn't have like pushed past that. We had the most talent ever. Like we had enough talent, I believe. But the way that our group now puts the like we just put basketball first, and we just like it feels more like a connected team. So like I'm I'm not surprised that we get to go farther than a lot of other spots that I've been on.
Yeah, it's been a
Still love those dudes though.
oh yeah, for sure. It's been a it's been a very memorable couple of years, and I think we're going to be able to look back on it once we have a little bit more time has passed to
Hmm.
kind of really feel how
Once you
special it
got
was.
the, once you get Cato and them in the year fours and stuff like that, we're gonna come back and it's gonna look totally different from when we were there.
Exactly. You know, the program is very much in good hands.
Right.
Any last little bit words of wisdom for the youth that are popping into your mind before we sign off?
Words of wisdom for the youth. Man, I should have probably wrote this down or something. I'm gonna have to freestyle this. I would just say you can't cheat the work. Like, and if you do cheat the work, the people that aren't cheating the work will end up exposing you someday.
Hmm.
It'll happen to you. Like, so I don't know. For me, if you really love this, you gotta stay in love with it and you gotta just keep going every day. Like when you even if your back hurts, this and that, like you just it's a long road that you just gotta keep on, just keep on going. You know what I mean? That's pretty
I think that was my major takeaway as I didn't play at your level of being out on the staff for 3 years and seeing the ins and outs of it. Not every program probably practices as hard as you guys do. But for you to last as long as you have shows that there's just a undeniable love of the game. Um, because everybody knows you get into late November
mm,
and it starts to get cold outside, and
mm.
even you might not be getting the minutes that you want to, but you've got to show up at 1:45 ready to play full court basketball for 2 hours.
And then watch film and then work out
Lift.
and then go home and repeat that every day until you look up and 5 years are done and you see where you're at. And if you want to keep going with it, I guess what? There's some more work to do. So it just doesn't really stop.
I really enjoyed it, man. The last couple of years have been awesome. I look forward to seeing you in the gym soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you, coach.
All right,
Uh,
dude.